But that was a discovery that they made. But there was no mention of Passover and the death of the firstborn in that article. It just mentioned, it had a picture of it. It's on the New York Times. If anybody has it, you can look it up or find it. Send it to me. So what happened? Why are we over here? So that was the 12 o'clock midnight. That's when the Jews were to finish, and that's what we do today. We finish eating our Passover meal, our Passover Seder. The last part of the Seder is the Korban Pesach, right? The calf the roasted calf that we eat, and we have to finish it by 12 midnight. No food can be eaten after that, right? When we come 2 weeks from now, on the 30th of March, remember we have to finish eating at the 12 o'clock midnight, because at that time the angel of death came and he struck the firstborn, passed over the houses of the Jews. And it's such a seminal event in our history that we noted in years afterwards that the firstborn are to fast on that day because they were honored. They were saved. They passed over. And on that night, the angel of death passed over their houses, right? Because we had made a dashing of the dam on the lentils and of the doorposts of a house, as symbolic that the angel of death would pass over and save the firstborn of the Jewish household. And that's why we are to finish at that time, 12 o'clock, eating the Passover lamb with all participants joining in and commemorating the seminal effect that the Jewish people were chosen, and the covenant that was made in chapter 15 in Genesis was being kept, because they were out into free people. And that's a theme of the Passover Seder, right? We are to have the theme of slavery to freedom. Slavery to freedom. And let it be known that they didn't have to go through slavery in the last 210 years before they were free. If they had not assimilated, which they did to a great extent after the death of Joseph, right? Joseph, who was Pharaoh's second in command, and as a result, he had a strict regimen on the prohibition against assimilating. But that, after his death, went down, and the Jews began to assimilate. And one reason we never assimilated in an exile, so to speak, is that we were put horrors and all kind of traumatic experiences, and exile wherever we were, kept on moving from place to place, and weren't allowed to assimilate during the Middle Ages and onward. Because once the Jews started assimilating, then you have Jews becoming addicted to alcohol, for instance, and drugs like we have today. We have many Jews addicted to these substances, which are harmful and definitely prohibited. So that's the Seder night, right? The theme is slavery and freedom. We have to bear that in mind. So God says that this will be my covenant with you, that after 400 years, you will go out and inherit the land of Canaan. And you know, this fellow Abbas, Palestinian Authority, he says, I'm a Canaanite. I was there before the Jewish people came. Yes, it may be true. The Canaanites were there before. And Canaan was a son of Ham, who was a son of Noah. And Noah gave the descendants of Ham, Canaan, the land of Africa. He gave the people of Shem, his son Shem, the descendants of Noah, son of Noah, the land of Israel, present-day Israel. So Abbas and the Canaanim were interlopers. They did not really have title to that land, and they were driven out for that reason, because they stole the land. They were interlopers. And two, because of the dastardly, horrific types of cruelty they did to the children, to the families, of offering human sacrifices. They were driven out of the land, and the land was given to the Jewish people. And God made that covenant with the Jewish people. He made that covenant. He said, if you keep the mitzvahs and follow the Torah teachings, then it will be peaceful for you, and I will give you the land of Israel. And deletes the border. In chapter 15, it tells them the land that they were going to get. In chapter 17:7, it says in Genesis that I will be a God to you, and the covenant will go through Isaac, not to his brother or Ishmael, right? It was going through Isaac and through Jacob and through the 12 tribes. So God said, I will be a everlasting God to you. And as for you, to keep your part of the covenant, every male should be circumcised after 8 days. And we still carry on that tradition and commandment that was given to us by God. And we see in the 21st century, here the Jewish people have control of the land of Israel. Whether all the other ideologies wanted it, and all the numerical strength couldn't get it. But little Israel is ruled by the Jewish people. And unfortunately, not yet have we been blessed with leaders who are God-fearing and committed to Torah, like we have the religious party of Agudas Israel, which has presently 7 seats, or the Sephardic religious party Shas, which has 5 seats or so, and the religious party Jewish Home, led by Naftali Bennett, and the Justice Minister, the Honorable Ayelet Shachat. So, in the meantime, we have trouble, being that the terrorists can roam without any meaningful punishment, and they have been able to perpetuate many murders. Just this week, 2 soldiers, a captain and a soldier, were run over purposely, killing both of them, and then with his truck he ran over two other soldiers, wounding them seriously. And what happens? We don't need a Shiva call, or to say we can arrest them, but we can't kill them. I mean, where's the death penalty? There's no death penalty in Israel, right? Because the Supreme Court rules that on the basis of their feelings, they make rulings. They take the land that is Israel and give it to no one, because they don't have proof that 100% of the land belonged by Jewish hands, and therefore, for instance, they had recently took an entire settlement and they had to uproot it because there's a piece of land in the middle that has no title claim to it. Not that an Arab came along and says it belongs to me. No one came along. No one has it, and as a result, they said you got to leave the entire area, the entire town, and it's happened like that on many occasions, because we have the Supreme Court and we have leaders that can't institute a death penalty for terrorism. What do? They lock them up and break down their houses, and they put them in jail, and they're fed 3 square meals a day, and then a prisoner exchange is taking place, and they're released, and in the meantime, their families are paid a stipend for doing this dastardly act. Now, that's the mindset of an irreligious leadership. That's the mindset of the irreligious leadership. And what we have to do is we have to try and bring Jewish teachings, Yeshiva Jewish teachings, into the masses. And that's why I'm proposing at this time to pay and learn, where we can get, for instance, young high school students to read 5 or 10 pages of a book on ideology, for instance, and we'll pay them $10 if they, pass the oral exam. So this is a very important point, that we have to realize that we have to go out and charge our youth and Jews in general to partake and develop a love for the Jewish learning. That's what we have to do. And this is what I propose. Now, if anybody wants to help and assist, you can call us at this number or leave a message over there and put this plan into action. Like I would start out in Brooklyn or in Queens and pay the high school students, boys and girls, $5, $10 for X amount of pages, so that you'll get an understanding and appreciation of Jewish learning, teachings. And the book that I would recommend, that I would have them tested on, is Behold a People. Behold a People by Rabbi Victor Miller. Behold, B-E-H-O-L-D, A People by Rabbi A. Miller. You can buy it on Amazon. So that's what we have to do. And, throughout the Bible, God has such a love for the Jewish people, such feeling for them, that many places he speaks of the love for his firstborn, his children, his Jewish people. If you look on Deuteronomy chapter 7:6, you should be holy because I picked you as a treasured people from all the people on the face of the earth. You shall be holy because I chose you as a treasured people from all the peoples on the face of the earth. Chapter 10, in Deuteronomy chapter 10, 14. Behold, to God is the heavens and all that there is therein, to the earth and all that there lives therein. But only the Jewish people, the forefathers, did I love to choose them above all the peoples on the face of the earth. But only your forefathers did I love to choose them and their offspring over all the peoples on the face of the earth as of this day, as of the day that you're reading this sentence. That's in Deuteronomy chapter 10, 14. Deuteronomy chapter 23, 6. Balaam wanted to curse the Jews because he was jealous of all the bounty and goodness that God gave them. He asked God, who was a Gentile prophet, to curse the Jews, and God said in 23:6, I will not curse them because I love the Jewish people. I love the Jewish people. And that's what we have to realize, that God has this unbountiful love of the Jewish people, and because of that, He gave us the Torah. And we, at Passover time, recall how we wanted to be released so that we can serve and worship God in the desert. Serve and worship God in the desert and sacrifice to Him. Now, what do we have? Sacrifices, offerings to God. That's a very significant subject. And just to precede it is that how can you possibly serve God Almighty, the creator of heaven and earth, without form, an entity without form? And that is, it's like a parent who sees his children growing up morally and ethically and with a good outlook on life. And that's how God wants us to serve Him, by our people growing up under the guidance of Torah and commandments, living that lifestyle. And that's what He benefits, because no benefit can be given to God except for His chosen people to live a life of moral and ethics, choosing free will, to choose virtuously in all His interactions, to choose virtuously in all His interactions, so that He could be holy. And what is the definition of holy? Holy means perfection in emulating God's acts. Perfection in emulating God's acts. And we see His acts and the students of His doing such wonderful deeds of feeding the hungry, clothing the poor like God did to Adam, or burying him, walking beside him, chesed shalem, a commandment where the deceased will be unable to pay back. So these are all examples of how we should conduct our everyday life, and our leadership especially should be attuned to the eternal retirement, and not, as some people say, well, I'm going to die in my chair, figuring out the stock market and accumulating wealth that I might give them to my children. But what is needed to be given is a charge of Torah and ideology to write a moral will of your commitment to Torah and its wonderful teachings that should be and could be passed down. But in the meantime, we want to again emphasize that we have the yeshivas. We have a yeshiva near a high school in Brooklyn, which is heavily attended by Jews, though non-observant. And we want to pay these students right on the spot money for learning from the book Behold the People, which is basic ideology, and pay them. So if you'd like to contribute or to help out in this cause, give us a shout over here. Now regarding there's a lot of things to speak about, but some of the things, the Nazis and all their horrific acts that they perpetrated against the Jewish people in Auschwitz and all the different death camps throughout Poland and Eastern Europe, and how these people, seemingly Nazis, got off scot-free. But there's a pasuk in the Torah that says 32, chapter 32, verse 39. It says over there that roll up your sleeves, right? Roll up your sleeves, everybody. Get a number. It's 32:39. It says, God wounds and God heals. God causes death and bringeth life, and no one can heal them from my hand. And no one can heal them from my hand. No one can heal them from my hand. In other words, they will get their appropriate punishment. But in the interim, we should mention or put up a monument to these scum who murdered 6 million Jews. Right? Here they are, coming to the concentration camp, and they have the Jewish orchestra playing a tune, and the whole time they're murdering, gassing, killing, torturing Jews, waiting in line to go to the gas chamber. And here the Germans, they each had a job. There was about 2,000 Germans that worked in 2,000 Germans that worked in Auschwitz, and each one had a job. One was in charge of torturing. One was in charge of delivering the cyclone gas that murdered a couple thousand at a shot. Here are the good doctors that infected Jewish young prisoners and experimented on them. And where are they? Where are these people? Oh, Andrea Markel, she's given blood money to the Jewish nation. That took care of it. But they need to be shown that we will never forget. And these murderers, Germans kept great records. They kept great records of who served and what they did. And that has to be brought down. We have Heinz Schmidt. He took the cylinder, the gas cylinder, and after they were crammed into the gas chamber, opened up the hatch on top and threw the gas chamber in. They threw the gas canister down. Now his name, his birthplace, and the town which he came from should be put on an appropriate entrance to the town from which he came. And there's 2,000 of these creeps in Auschwitz alone. In Auschwitz alone. Oh, Angela Merkel's going to give you blood money, right? We're not going to talk about anything we did bad, because after all, we're paying you, right? We're paying you. I mean, you know, where are the murderers? Where are the families? Oh, they're all dead now, right? So, you know, you can't kill them because they're already dead. But we want a monument to what dastardly acts they did, what they perpetuated, and these systematically train loads of Jewish human cargoes being systematically murdered and gassed and burnt, with their clothing and their hair all reconstituted for the war effort. Wait, we want to know who these 2,000 SS scum are and where they were born, and have a little monument in front of their town from which they come from. All the Hanses and the Schmidts and the Heinzes. Let them tell how infamous their first sons were. No, we want to forget about them. I mean, we can't harm them, because after all, we only have the posterity left, and we don't want to hurt the posterity. But where is the posterity of the Jews? They never came back. And the German posterity should realize when they come and enter the town, what who their forefathers were, and